Hi, folks. My name is Jay Amerlinson. I'm a transformation engineering lead here at Software AG and a specialist in the Eris product set. And today we're doing another Art of the Possible video with the Eris platform. And to do this, I want to talk about one of the topics that I face with a lot of the enterprise clients that I have, but even some of our smaller clients who are thinking about how to put it all together. And that is talking about a continuous improvement, data-driven life cycle. Now, normally, I spend a lot of time here in the Eris platform, but for this, I'm actually going to show a slide because I think it's relevant for us to start the conversation about what it means to put the whole life cycle together. And talking about process improvement, there's a lot of different phases that I want to talk about, these sort of 5 things on the page here, why they're important and how they all fit together. So it depends on where you start, but in the full version where you've got all these capabilities enabled, what we want to do is talk about data moving between design, analysis, and production. Now, this movement here between production and design comes through the lens of process mining. Now, Eris process mining is a great way of pulling transaction logs out of the systems that you've got running your business to give you a sense of what you're doing today. So if you don't have your as-is process models right now, you can get a starting point of what those models are by pulling transaction logs and having Eris automatically draw your models for you with all the different various scenarios they might go down. That's a good way of sort of starting you out on process modeling. However, if you currently have, and this is where we sort of talk about this idea of a reference design, if there are currently reference designs or you're working with systems that have best practices, a perfect example of that is something like SAP, where there are reference processes and best practices, or if you're working with an external consultancy who themselves have best practices by industry, also Software AG does offer best practices by industry reference processes called the Industry Performance Ready Solution, although contact your sales representative for more information on that one. What we're going to do is we can also take that process mining data, and if you have reference information, we can compare that in our business design environment. And that's going to be within the Eris designer interface itself, within Eris Connect. Now we can take this design that we've mined out, and we can compare it. Hey, actually, this had only one pathway it was supposed to go down. And this one over here, that's a weird variant that we need to be aware of. So I can now compare my reference versus my design or versus my mined out process. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take that and use information from process mining, including KPIs like how long did each step take, what was my total throughput time, am I meeting my needs, am I struggling and causing bottlenecks in any place in particular, and use that to drive business conversations, business design. Is this what we want to do? Is this working the way we want it to? And how can we get better at this? Now, once again, we're using data to drive the conversation because the data is telling me where I should look. Hey, I've got a problem right here. And Eris is giving me a mechanism by which I can improve it. Hey, I'd like to harmonize that. Maybe we do have a small exception case here, but it shouldn't have 2 steps. It should only have 1, and then we should rejoin those 2 over here. So being able to use Eris as both the place that drives the conversation and a place in which you can design the future state based off that conversation, based off of your business analysis expertise. The next piece of the puzzle is you can use process mining data, which might give you things like how long did each step take? What was the total time? What percentage of the time did we go down each of these different paths? You can use that data. That's a really handy feature for simulation. Once again, within the Eris platform. But now we're using data to drive 2 different things. Now, if you took a look at my tutorial series 1 on how to set up a simple simulation, you've already seen that statistical information can give you an idea of what that scenario that you're constructing, what your business process might actually result in terms of the KPIs you get out on throughput time, how much bottlenecking time, what my best path forward might be, and how I might optimize my resources around things. But instead of what I was talking about in that, which is putting data in from time and motion studies or from best guesses and sage knowledge, you're actually taking process mining data as the core back end of what you're using to simulate, and then driving out real insights and real proposals from that, ready to push out as a potential design for your systems and for your processes. And so now we can future-proof. Let's say we've got a process mining, mined out a certain number. Let's say it was 3 months and it mined out 200,000 transactions over those 3 months. Okay, excellent. Well, what if I went up to 500,000 over those 3 months? Well, would my system still be able to handle it? And now I can future-proof and run over a bunch of different types of scenarios. What if I had a risk that popped up more often? How would I address that? What controls can I put in place? And simulation helps you make the right business decisions to make the right kind of models you'd like to push out. Now, the next piece of the puzzle is when we talk about more in that, if you look at the EPC versus BPMN discussion, we talk about moving it into more of a BPMN world and talking about IT requirement generation. So I'm taking these business models and I'm turning them into things that can be consumed by external partners. Now, and sometimes it's a picture that someone has to read and use to drive their decision making. Sometimes it's a BPMN model that I can export straight from Eris, which is our tech tip that we'll talk about at the very end. Sometimes it is actually something I can synchronize in with external systems, either through RESTful API or through a bidirectional interface, as a perfect example of what we have with SAP. So SAP Solution Manager would consume, once again, if you've seen tutorial 1, it's tutorial series 1, we've got a video on how SAP and Eris interact. But SAP can consume the designs you've done. So now you're doing technical designs. In the case of SAP, putting transactions against your process steps. In the case of external systems, just building the right kind of models that can interface with it. BPMN, also that can tie in with the formats like DMN, if you're looking to do decision model and notation, which is really good for business rules engines. And those are going to push out those technical designs into those systems who will implement it. And now we leave it to those technical teams to do it the way we said they should do it. Use those requirements documents to drive their coding that goes into actually making these systems work. Eris is a design tool, but we can provide great information for people who are working in those runtime tools to get them ready to go with our designs. But note that this process does not stop here, because we're going to continue to monitor how those processes are being executed. So for instance, as we deploy out our processes into our transactional systems, we're going to still use process mining. But now we're actually going to have something to compare to. Instead of comparing our reference process, which might have come from a reference library, we're now going to compare our designed process to our executed process. So now we're going to check compliance. Are people doing what we said they should do? Are they making workaround choices that are smart? And the people at the ground level are really helping to inform how we should redesign our process. Or are they simply non-compliant? And perhaps we should take a look at retraining, or talking to different business units about compliance to process designs, or maybe the communication isn't effective for getting to these different teams and they're still doing things the old way. And that's how we continue the life cycle. So it goes around and around and around and around, and this is how we keep everyone together. And so and this is all within Eris except for this one external system component. All these things are within Eris. This is our Eris process mining. This is Eris Designer. This is Eris Simulation. This is also Eris Design, but for BPMN, and then back over there. So all within the Eris system. I really do love it. Now, just to go and said, as I said I would do, the tech tip of the day is, how do I get information in BPMN format out of Eris? Well, the answer is we can export content from the Eris Connect server or Eris Connect design interface in .bpmn format. So I'm actually going to go to the BPMN model that I have ready to go right over here. My sales order processing BPMN. If I click on these 3 dots right here, the More button, I can say BPMN export, and that's going to export this in .bpmn format, ready to go. You can also do this from Eris Architect. There's a BPMN export from Eris Architect that lets you pull things out and get them ready to go, and that'll generate a .bpmn file ready for someone to consume, some external system to consume and implement. Well, thanks a lot for listening. Once again, I'm JM. You've been a listener. Please leave a like, a share, a comment, anything you'd like to see in future series. We're excited to present more of these Art of the Possible videos to you, the listeners, and to our ARIS community. Thank you so much for being lovers of the ARIS platform, just like I am, and we'll see you in the next video.